Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, a conversation with the big first district congressman for Kansas, Tracey Mann. Lots to talk about and what's going on in our nation's capital. We also have features from Kansas Corn, Kansas Wheat, and the Kansas Farm Bureau, along with a weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association and market information from Pinion, a division.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, kfb.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com.
In agriculture news, consumer prices for cereal products as measured by the Consumer Price Index rose about 11% from January through June of this year compared to the same time a year ago. It is the largest year-over-year increase in those last 6 months since 1981. USDA says the rise in consumer prices for cereal products tracks with more substantial increases in the price of wheat. The Kansas City wheat market most closely reflects the prices that mills pay for wheat, and cash wheat prices were up 63% from the same period a year ago. The heightened volatility follows a typical pattern. Price changes in commodity markets tend to be relatively more extreme than the changes in consumer prices. Generally, commodity prices make up a small portion of the value of the overall product because of the level of transformation and transportation that the products go through while moving through the value supply chain. Well, early indications are suggesting that land auction activity will be good both before and after the harvest this year. Farmers National Company says the land sales typically slow in the spring and early summertime, but boy, the rate they say of late summer and fall auctions getting scheduled with Farmers National Company continues to pick up rapidly. The overall number of sales and the amount of land sold now through the end of the year likely won't equal the very active land market at the end of last year, they say, but will more than likely exceed what was seen during the slower land market years of 2015 through 2020. The company says people are moving ahead with sales because of the historically high land prices currently in the market. Another factor is the level of uncertainty in a number of factors that influence land values, especially inflation. Sellers are worrying about how far and how quickly interest rates might rise. And while public agricultural research and development funding in the U.S. has trended downward in recent decades, several other major trading partners have increased their funding. USDA's Economic Research Service reports that China leads the world in agricultural research and development funding. Brazil also has picked up a substantial amount. With China as a major import of U.S. agriculture goods, Brazil, one of the main competitors in the U.S. for corn and soybean markets, these developments could impact U.S. export competitiveness. Kansas Big First District Congressman Tracey Mann joins us in a few moments.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum. Growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com.
And joining us now, our special guest, Kansas Big First District Congressman Tracey Mann. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Ken. Good seeing you.
We have a ton of things to talk about, so let's just dive right into it. A few days after we talked now is the International Trade Commission came on the side of the U.S. when it comes to fertilizer coming from across the pond, so good news for farmers.
Good news for farmers. Ken, as you know, one of the biggest issues facing agriculture in the region, certainly in Kansas, is fertilizer prices. You know, we're seeing 200%, 300%, 400% increases. I've been saying at the very least, let's help ourselves and not impose tariffs and make it even worse for our producers. So sent 3 letters on this, including to President Biden. We testified before the International Trade Council. They were looking at adding tariffs on inbound UAN from Trinidad and Tobago specifically. So we pushed back on that big time, and we're delighted with the news yesterday when they said that they are going to, they're basically rescinding what they're going to do. So they are not going to impose tariffs on our inbound fertilizer from Trinidad and Tobago, which isn't going to solve the problem for our producers, but every little bit helps. And it's a nice win, and we need more of it. So,
well, right. It is a good start. The other thing, you are working with Congressman Crawford from Arkansas in trying to hold feet to the fire to India when it comes to wheat and rice. So a couple of different commodities, but still also important to make sure that it doesn't hurt U.S. and especially Kansas farmers.
That's exactly right. You know, those are big potential markets for us. And when you have the Indian government that is unfairly subsidizing and doing things they shouldn't be doing to distort the market, we are raising the red flag about that, saying what they're doing is out of bounds, trying to raise a profile of it to provide some pressure on them to ease up and to really help open up that market for our, American producers.
Well, the other big issue right now that's kind of headlines, if you will, is farmers need to be engaged on the situation. EPA is now talking about atrazine, trying to review their temporary order. I mean, I think many in farm country are just scratching their heads or banging their head up against the wall and saying, what are we doing?
Atrazine is in like 45 of the 50 chemicals most commonly used in Kansas. I mean, this is devastating. Meanwhile, Ken, it's mixed messages from the standpoint of they're saying the climate matters. As you know, our ag producers in Kansas many have shifted to no-till years and years ago. To do that, you've got to have chemicals. And when they restrict or threaten to restrict the use of chemicals, you can't have it both ways. But regardless, this is bureaucrats that are way out of bounds. Purely, atrazine is safe, it's been approved and used for decades. Very frustrating. We're pushing hard on them to ease up, get it approved, and let's move on.
We're talking with the Kansas 1st District Congressman Tracey Mann. Let's take a break. Back with more in just a moment.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association. supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
And our guest is the 1st District Congressman Tracey Mann, the big 1st District, and he is a member of the House Agriculture Committee. Congressman, you know it. You've been back home, and Western Kansas desperately needs rain. Talking to farmers, they know, and they're getting very fearful of what these spring seeded crops are going to look like. Different story on the east, but here in the west, they may need some help.
No, you're exactly right. And if you look at the maps, and we're in counties all the time. Our family's farms in Gove County. It's dire there. Russ is a farm in Southwest Kansas, as do you. I live in Salina, and sometimes we've got too much rain in Salina at times, but certainly the western half and certainly third of the state, severe to extreme drought. And you couple that, Ken, with the, these 100+ degree days, 30-40 mile an hour winds. It's really, really, bad for our crops that are currently trying to grow, as we all know. Question will be, how widespread does this get? What aid is there available? Certainly crop insurance will kick in for a certain amount of losses, but we're just going to have to, figure this out as we really determine what the severity is.
You bring up crop insurance, that means we got to talk about the next farm bill. I know as a member of the Ag Committee, you've had some hearings on the Hill looking at different pieces. But again, just like it was the last one, agriculture groups are saying, don't mess with crop insurance. If you do, enhance it.
Yeah, I completely agree. When people ask me, what are my priorities for the farm bill? That, to remind everybody, expires next September 30th. So we are 14 and a half months away from this current farm bill expiring. But my top priorities are crop insurance, and crop insurance. I mean, we got to make sure that the program does not get diminished, weakened, chipped away at. We need to fortify it, strengthen it. It's a public-private partnership, Ken. It's working. Producers like it. Yeah, there's some improvements that could be made, but by and large, huge success. Makes sense for America's food supply, makes sense for the American farmer and rancher.
As you have met as an Ag Committee more than maybe last year, but talk about maybe the makeup, and have you grown some alliances with maybe folks outside the Midwest as you look at moving forward with things like the Farm Bill?
Yeah, certainly. I think you have to remember, this Farm Bill, we're doing some hearings now. I've been frustrated with leadership on the committee. We've not done nearly enough hearings. We've not been, the committee needs to go travel around the country, sit down, on the tailgates and talk to the producers that actually are impacted by these programs. So I feel like we're behind from that regard. This needs to be a producer-centric farm bill. Remember, we're going to have an election between now and then. So nothing's a sure thing, but it looks likely, Republicans would flip the House. If that happens, Congressman Thompson from Pennsylvania, GT, will have the gavel. So we'll have a different chairman then than we do now. So a lot to play out here over the next few months as we really continue to work on the next farm bill.
Our guest is Kansas 1st District Congressman Tracey Mann. We'll have more in just a moment.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
And our guest is Kansas Big First District Congressman Tracey Mann. And Congressman, I want to take just a couple things. One is redistricting has taken place. The Big First grew and did some changing. And so now Lawrence is part of the Big First.
Yeah, the district stretches all the way from, Goodland on I-70 all the way to Lawrence, includes Jefferson and Jackson counties. It's still, the third largest ag producing district in the country, 435 congressional districts. We're number 3 when it comes to ag sales every year. So it's an important district to the country because of all the food that, of course, is grown and produced here.
Absolutely. In those counties, you picked up great ag producers there. So I want to talk a little bit about working with this administration, or if you even can, because it seems like there has not been a big push when it comes to the agriculture agenda. They've kind of let Secretary Vilsack do a few things, but I think many of us are a little surprised that there hasn't been a bigger effort when it comes to trade and opening up more trade opportunities and really looking at how we can move more American products.
It's been very frustrating. This is a priority issue, Ken. These things happen. Markets are open when we focus on them and work to move the needle. Greg Dowd, Kansan, did a great job when he was in the USDA's office for agriculture. The Biden administration has been very slow. We're 18 months into the administration and getting somebody confirmed that's going to work specifically on opening up markets for agriculture.
This spring and early summer, you've been visited by folks from home, from Kansas, finally getting a chance to come back to the nation's capital. Are things on the Hill somewhat back to normal as far as being able to get business done and to do face-to-face conversations rather than things like this?
Getting better, but it's not where it should be, Ken. I live in Salina and commute here to Washington to vote. This town has stayed closed for far too long. We're still doing hybrid committee meetings, which means it's an option for members to stay in their office or be wherever and Zoom in. It's far past time to end proxy voting, end hybrid meetings, meet in person, have the conversations we need to have on behalf of agriculture, hash it out, and move forward. So we've been way too slow to open up in my mind.
Just really a few more working weeks in this Congress before the election, as you talked about. Will we get much of anything done before you all break?
We'll see. Great question. So we're back, this week and next week, and then we have votes for 3 weeks in the month, really 2.5 weeks in the month of September, and that's it. So we're going to see what gets done here. You could say, better nothing gets done than bad things get done. So
the last thing I do want to ask about is Senator Manchin has basically said the Build Back Better, that type of situation, he can't support anything that is very large at all. So the administration says they may do it by executive order or have a very small package. Can they get something? Will they have the votes in the House if something does pass in the Senate?
Yeah, they would have the votes in the House probably. So Manchin's pumping the brakes on it, fortunately. But we'll see if Biden tries to override him or what they do on their side.
Well, Congressman, a lot more we could talk about, but we know you have a busy schedule. So we thank you for taking the time to update us on what have been some victories and what have been maybe some continuations on the agriculture front there in Washington, D.C. So sure appreciate it.
Happy to. Thanks for having me, Ken. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Kansas 1st District Congressman Tracey Mann has joined us. We'll have more coming up in just a moment.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers, farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
A trio of updates from K-State Agronomy provides guidance for producers as they begin to harvest this year's wheat crop and plan for post-harvest treatments and crop rotations, including considerations when harvesting short wheat. Drought conditions have resulted in thinner stands and shorter wheat plants in fields across the state, both of which present challenges for combining the wheat crop. Thin, short wheat can also cause issues after the combines have finished passes. Less cover from wheat stubble and residue means producers should have a solid plan for addressing post-harvest wheat emergence. A K-State Agronomy e-update from June 2nd discusses the recommended options for weed control and wheat stubble in two pathways: controlling emerged weeds and preventing later flushes. The update covers the effectiveness of different herbicide products, including application rates and crop rotation considerations based on the 2022 Chemical Weed Control for Field Crops, Pastures, and Non-Cropland Guide. For fields that did receive enough soil moisture, K-State also issued guidance for double cropping considerations after harvest, cautioning wheat producers that the relatively short growing season and likely hot and dry conditions in July and August can result in issues with germination, emergence, seed set, or grain fill. Herbicide carryover is also an important consideration when planning for and managing a double crop rotation. You can find this information and more at eupdate.agronomy.ksu.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
The Kansas Beef Council has pioneered a slow cooker summer recipe campaign funded by the Beef Checkoff to meet the demands of consumers this time of year for easy-to-make meals. The campaign utilizes promoted posts and targeted ads on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and TikTok to reach different demographics. All content was produced by Kansas Beef Council staff. KBC's targeted posts currently are performing better than industry averages. The recipe included in the campaign are whiskey molasses shredded beef sliders, a sweet onion pepper sandwich, barbecue brisket, tangy barbecue beef sandwiches, and beef tacos. These recipes feature more affordable cuts of beef so consumers do not have to sacrifice taste due to cost. The campaign also provides suggestions for possible cut swaps. Whiskey molasses shredded beef sliders was the first recipe posted at the end of June. KBC Director of Nutrition Abby Havardi uses this recipe during an appearance on KSNT TV to kick off the campaign. The remaining recipes will be posted throughout the summer. To view the recipes, go to www.beefitswhatsfordinner.com. The recipe videos can be found on the Kansas Beef Council YouTube channel.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Good day. I'm Derek Hermish with Pinion. Unprecedented is a word that you've probably heard or maybe even spoken yourself recently when listening to or discussing the markets. We've experienced volatility in the ag markets before, and if you've been around long enough, you've also experienced inflation and rising interest rates. Nobody around today, though, has experienced both of those items at the same time with the amount of managed money that exists in the market today. The ability of the market to trade a range of prices in 1 week that we typically would trade in a year can be great for day traders, but it can lead to indecisiveness for hedgers wanting to make long-term decisions. It's difficult in this environment to give advice to somebody without knowing your individual operation and current crop outlook. Something I can offer, though, is to be sure you know what kind of decision you are trying to make. A short-term day trader does need to concern himself or herself with nickels and dimes when picking spots to sell or buy. A long-term hedger does not in this environment. Don't let a dime hold up a decision that could cost you $1. I'm Derek Hermish. Have a good day.
That's our show this week. Be social with us at kansasagreport.net or on our social media channels. Still, hot temperatures prevail. Drink plenty of water and join us again next week for the Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Are you looking for Medicare supplement insurance plans? Now is a good time to look at your options with Kansas Farm Bureau Health Plans. A Medicare supplement insurance plan can help cover certain out-of-pocket expenses Medicare doesn't cover. Things like deductibles, coinsurance, and certain limitations that can be costly in the event of an accident or illness. With Kansas Farm Bureau Health Plans, you have options to Medicare supplement insurance plans with 4 levels of affordable coverage and service from an organization known for its commitment serving Kansans. We encourage you to compare our rates. For more information and to get a quote, contact a Farm Bureau Financial Services agent near you or visit kfbhealthplans.com. Medicare supplements insured by Members Health Insurance Company, Columbia, Tennessee. Not connected with or endorsed by the U.S. or state government.